Hi there, today I'm going to show you how to make this herringbone bracelet, and kind of what's unique about it is this little gold strip down the center. So I'll show you how to add that. But otherwise, this bracelet's made just using flat herringbone stitch. And then I used a magnetic clasp here to finish it off. You could use any other type of clasp that you'd like a lobster clasp and a jump ring or whatnot. I really do like the way the magnetic clasp looks and works. It's really easy to put on. But if you do have other bracelets that you wear with magnetic clasps, they might stick together. So that's something to keep in mind. And the magnet, depending on how strong it is, it might also stick to other things. So kind of keep that in mind. But I've been wearing this one since I made it. And I actually am really loving it. So I'm going to make it again using the magnetic clasp. Here's what it looks like without the bracelet. And so it has two loops. Well, it has a loop on each side. They're closed, and we attach that with the thread. So I use size 8/0 seed beads, and I'm using this mix. It's called Pop Art. I have it in my shop, and these are actually check seed beads, so check racals, and in the size 8/0. And then the inlay of the gold, it's not really an inlay because it sits on top, but I'm using size 11/0 Miyuki. And there's two different Duracoat galvanized colors of gold. One's 4202, which is they call it gold, and then one's 4203, which they call yellow gold. So I actually, for this, chose to use the yellow gold, which is 4203, to give it a bigger pop because it's a little bit brighter, and a little more contrast against the beads. But you can use any gold bead that you want. So you'll also need a beading needle. So I'm going to be using a size 10 beading needle and a pair of scissors to cut your thread. You'll need a ruler to help measure out how long to make your bracelet. And I'm using this black wildfire thread. It's thermally bonded thread. You could use clear FireLine, same thing. You could even use a nylon beading thread, but for something like this where I don't need a nice drape, like for fringe earrings, I like to use a thermally bonded thread. It's less fraying, less tangles, less knots. So, and the black will be really nice in the tutorial, make it easier to see. So the first thing you're going to want to do is cut about 2 arm spans length of thread. You do need quite a bit of thread for this. Maybe a little less, but definitely close to 2 arm spans. And then you'll go ahead and thread your needle. Then you'll want to decide how long you need to make your beaded portion of your bracelet. And so what I recommend doing is taking a bracelet that you really like the length and how it fits, and then kind of using a ruler to measure out the length of that bracelet. So I'm going to use this one as an example here. And so you would just kind of measure from start to finish, and then you would take that length and then subtract the length of your clasp, both ends. So if you're using a magnetic clasp, it would be from here to here. If you're using a lobster clasp, basically any length that the clasp will take up, you want to subtract that from the length of your favorite bracelet that we just measured. And that's going to be your beading, the beaded portion length that you'll need, because we're going to do all the beads first, and then we're going to go and put the clasp on at the end. So in my example here, for instance, this bracelet is about 16, a little less than 16, like, let's see, 16.4 centimeters. So, and then my clasp is about 1 centimeter or a little less or whatever. So I'm gonna bead about, 15.5 centimeters. That's gonna be my beaded portion for my bracelet. So if you're off a millimeter or so, it probably won't make much of a difference. All right, so you cut your thread, go ahead and thread your needle, and then we're gonna get started. So what you wanna do is, now I should mention the pattern here. So you can use any color beads that you'd like here. I really love these beads and this kind of creating this stripe pattern. I've been wearing this every day since I made it. And here in Northern California in the fall, I've just been wearing some light sweaters, and it's really been matching with everything that I wear. So I'm going to make it again using these beads, but you can do it anyhow you want. So I'm going to make it again doing the stripes, and I just added the colors randomly in no specific order. So I'm just going to start with, let's say, I'll do black. So the first stitch is going to be a little different than the rest. So I'm going to pick up a black, and then I'll do yellow, and I'll do one more yellow, and then another black. Now, I mostly work with Miyuki beads, and they're extremely uniform in size and shape, and that's why I work mostly with them. These check beads are not as uniform. So that's something that it works, and this design works great. But what I'd like to do is when I'm picking up a set of beads, I want them all to be similar in size, especially thickness is really what we're looking for. So these look pretty good, the two yellows and the two blacks. Like comparing the two blacks, they're about the same, and the two yellow beads, they're about the same. So I'll show you more as we go along. So then you're going to want to go ahead and thread that down to the end of your thread, leaving about a 10-inch tail on one side. On your tail end, you want to leave a tail, and you'll use that to attach the clasps to that end. So then we're going to go ahead and go back up just the first two beads here. And then I'm going to put my finger over those first two beads to kind of hold them in place, and then pull all the way through. And that's going to kind of create two columns, essentially. Okay. Now I'm going to go ahead and add in my first, actually, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to just reinforce this row. So I'm going to go ahead and put my needle down the second column here. So thread's coming out of the first. I'm going to go down the second column here, and I'm going to pull all the way through. Kind of give a nice little tug, and then I'm going to go back up the first column like so, and pull and give a little tug. Okay, and now I'm going to add my first gold bead, and to do that I'm going to go down just this yellow bead here in the second column and pull all the way through. And then I'm going to pick up one gold bead, oops, like so, and I'm going to go up the yellow in the first column. Oops. Sorry, went out of frame there. So I'm going to go up this yellow, and when I pull that all the way through, that gold bead should just kind of pop right in the center there. Okay, so that's a little different, you know, because that was just kind of getting started. But now what we're going to be doing is what we're going to be doing the whole rest of the way. So I'll walk you through several stitches, and then you'll finish it, and we'll come back and do the clasp. Okay, so then you want to pick up 2 of the same color. So now every time you're going to be picking up 2 of the same color. And what you want to do at this step is you want to look at these and make sure that they're about the same size. So it's less important about, you know, each kind of stitch that you're going to be adding, whereas within one stitch, you want the 2 beads to be as uniform as possible. Okay, so we have our 2 beads, and so this is just flat herringbone stitch. And so it's coming out of the first column, and so we're going to go down that 1 yellow bead in the second column, and I hold the beads with my fingers while I pull so they don't fly out of my hand. So I'm just pulling all the way down, and then you want to get these beads to kind of sit. You might need to use your fingers to adjust, to kind of get them lined up like so. And then I'm going to go ahead and go up the yellow and that blue that I just added. Okay, and then I'm going to pull all the way through here. Okay, so that's just herringbone stitch, just adding beads like that. But we want to put in this gold, another gold bead. So I'm going to go down 1, the column on the right, and I'm going to pull all the way through. Okay, then I'm going to pick up a gold, 1 gold bead, and then I'm going to go up that blue bead on the left and pull, holding it with my fingers. The start's always the hardest part when you don't really have much to hold on to, but it will get easier when you have a larger portion to hold on to. Give a little pull, and you see now I have that gold bead in there. So we really just repeat this process over and over until your desired length. So in my case, I'm going 15.5 centimeters, and then I'm going to add my clasp, which is my little magnetic clasp. So I'm picking up 2 beads. I'm making sure they're the same size and shape here. Okay, and then I'm going to go down 1 on the right. See there, went down 1 bead on the right, holding that my fingers and pulling all the way through. Okay, so when you pull, the beads might look like that, you know, but so you might need to use your fingers just to kind of settle them in. And then you're going to go up 2 on the left. So I went down 1 on the right and up 2 on the left. And I'm going to give a pull. Okay, now to put the gold bead in, I'm going to go down 1 on the right. I'm going to grab my gold bead and I'm going to go up one, on the left, like so. Okay, and I'm going to pull that all the way through, and that gold bead's just going to sit right in there. So we're just going to keep doing that. Let's grab 2 more beads. Make sure they're similar size. So you can see in most cases, these beads have worked pretty well. But there is some variability with these check seed beads. If you're using Miyuki 80 seed beads, you probably wouldn't have as much of a concern. So we have these, and we're going to go down one on the right and pull all the way through. Get your beads situated. And then go up 2 on the left. And pull. Okay. So then we got to add the gold bead. So we're going to go down 1 on the right and pull. And pick up 1 gold bead and go up 1 on the left. Now you could also use silver here. I think that actually would look great as well, now that I'm thinking about it. Okay, so let's do a couple more, and then I'm gonna let you go on your own. So I'm gonna pick up 2. So you see this one it's very subtle, but this bead on the right here is a little thicker than the bead on the left. So I'm actually gonna try to get a better matched bead than that. This is so that the rose, that one's a slightly different shade of red. This is so that, you know, the beads sit nicely. So that one actually has a bigger diameter. Let's see. Okay, that looks a little better. So now I'm gonna go down 1 on the right and pull. Flatten them out with my fingers and go up 2 on the left and pull. Okay, now I'm going to put my thread in the position to add the gold bead by going down 1 on the right, picking up my gold bead and going up 1 on the left and pull. Okay, so let's do one more. I'm going to pick up 2 beads. Looks like they're about the same size. And I'm going to go down 1 on the right, pull, and go up 2 on the left. So the 2 you're going up is the previous row and the row you just added. And give that pull. And now I'm going to go down 1, pull, pick up my gold bead and go up one on the left and pull. Okay, so you're just going to keep doing that until you reach your desired length of your beaded portion, which in my case, I calculated it to be 5.5 centimeters, or sorry, 15.5 centimeters. Okay, so here I have one that's beaded, and I just need to add one more row and then add my clasp. So let's go ahead and do the final row. Same thing, we're gonna just pick up 2 beads and we're gonna go down 1 on the right and pull. And then we're gonna go up 2 on the left and pull. Then we're going to go down 1 on the right, grab our gold bead, and go up 1 on the left. And the bead's going to just kind of fit right in there. Okay. So now we're going to add our clasp. And this part, if you're using a magnetic clasp, can be a little tricky because, so I'm just separating the 2 ends, but the needle can stick to the magnet, so it could be a little tricky here. So I'm going to go ahead and just stick my needle through the loop on the one side of the magnetic clasp, and I'm going to pull that through so it kind of meets down here at the end. So you see, you just kind of have it threaded on there. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go down 2 on the right, and I'm going to go ahead and pull that through. And that's going to then situate the clasp right in there. I just think it looks so great. It sits perfectly. Okay, so now we want to reinforce this so that there's several strands of thread holding on the clasp. So I'm going to go up 2 on the left, and here you can see my needles kind of sticking there to the clasp, so it can be a little tricky, and pull that. Then I'm going to go through the loop on the magnetic clasp and pull that. And then I'm going to go down the next 2, or down 2 on the right again, like so. Pull that, and I'm going to do that one more time. I'm going to go up the 2 on the left and pull. And I'm going to go through the hole in the clasp and pull. And then I'm going to go down the 2 on the right. So now I've gone, this is being held on by 3 kind of strands of thread, and it's pretty secure. So once we've secured the clasp, we have the thread coming out here. So really the next couple, or the next steps, are really just to secure the thread and hide it within the bead so then we can cut off the excess. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a couple knots and just kind of stitch the thread and weave it throughout the beads and then cut it off. Now, exactly which beads you go through is not as important, and you can add as many knots and kind of go through as many beads as you'd like until you feel that it's secure. So I'll show you kind of what I do, and you can modify that. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my needle kind of, actually, I'm going to go down one more bead here on the left. So now I'm coming out of this third bead on the left here. And so there's a thread going between these two beads here. And so what I'm trying to do is get my needle behind that thread. It's kind of hard to see, it's black there. But I'm getting my needle behind that thread. So then I can kind of use that, what it's called, kind of a thread bridge there, to make a knot. So I'm going to pull the thread, and with this little loop, I'm going to then feed my needle through that loop and pull and give a good tug, and that created a knot right there. Okay, so then I'm going to go down a couple more beads. The exact number of beads you go down here does not matter. Okay, you can create another knot. So I'm going behind that thread bridge and then getting the loop here, putting my needle through the loop and pulling that, so that creates a little knot there. Okay, so then I'm going to go down a couple more. Just got my tail end in there, like so. And then I'm going to go across here. So I'm going to go, so I'm coming out between this red and blue bead. So I'm going to go across and up the red bead on the left. And another couple beads there, like so. Okay, and I'm going to pull that. Now I'm coming out between this kind of dark blue and turquoise bead. So I'm going to go across and go down the turquoise bead on the right. So I'm just kind of like creating, going back and forth. So I'm going to go down a couple beads here, like so. Okay. And then I'm going to come down a couple more beads. Pull that. So now I'm coming out between this blue or green and kind of blue aqua bead here. So I'm going to go behind or underneath the piece of thread between these two beads. You'll be able to feel if you catch it, because you won't be able to pull the needle out. So I'm gonna, no, it's actually coming out of that gold bead, so I don't want to do that. There we go. Okay, so my needle's under there, and get this loop, put my needle through the loop, and pull. Okay, and then I'm just gonna go ahead and thread down a handful of beads, pull that, and cut the excess. There we go. Okay, so now to put the other side of the clasp on, you're going to do the exact same thing that we just did. So you'll take your needle off of the piece of thread that you were just working with, and you will add it to your tail end, that 10-inch piece that we left in the beginning, and just do the exact same thing that we just did for this side. There's no difference at all. And then that's it. And then when you cut your excess thread from your tail end, then you will be left with your bracelet. Oops. Like so. And clasps. Very easy. So there you have it. So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Please let me know if you have any questions. And I hope you have a great day. Thanks so much.